This is an audio check, just checking the audio. Let me know if you can hear me, guys. Okay, guys, we'll start like the pre-warm-up. Rachel's doing really well. She's... Hang on, let me... Can you hear me? How's that going? Oh, why is that bringing that up? Okay. Rachel's doing really well. She's healing up quite well. Quite well. She's now limping around instead of using her there we go. Instead of using her, what you might call it, crutch. Oh, I didn't build a, you know what? I've got my my beer for tonight, everyone. So I'm filling up the stein with a nice Cooper's Pale Ale. It'll have a nice coffee flavour too. What foods Rachel been craving? Chocolate. Chocolate. Always chocolate. She uses this as an excuse to completely break the carnivore diet or the keto diet and go on the chocolate. Oh, that's good. Yeah, this is beer. Not carnivore today. Sometimes you just gotta have a good drop. Break the rules a bit. I think if you're gonna eat wheat, you'll eat it in beer. I like a good pale ale, though. I'll like a good pale ale. What I'll do is, let me just, let me get my thing set up here. Bear with me a sec, everyone. I just thought I'd give this a shot. Well, I haven't actually watched it, and I was looking at some Rachel was sending me all these articles about the budget getting angry. The budget reply. So I thought I'd have a look at it. Pregnancy cravings are real. Yes, they are. Well, they're really a sign of vitamin deficiency, really. So the intro. Because I was talking to Rachel today about what she would think, you know, what type of job we could help Edward get because of his, because he's, you know, disabled. And she's going, you know, he'll have an IQ like 60 to 70. And she's going, oh, well, he could be a politician. Could run Melbourne. That's pretty mean. She's worse than me. So inappropriate, you know? So inappropriate. Just getting everything set up. What have we got? We've got another minute here. Did you all see the video I did about the new land taxes in Victoria? Isn't that going to be great for doing the property sector down there? Of course they're going to put up taxes, you know, when they spend all the money. Of course. No, I can't say I'm surprised. The education revolution. Yeah, like the... What is it? The education results, like we have right here, that are doing so well. We're actually doing NAPLAN next week. So I've got to take Mina to do it. All the kids are doing this test. KMR is saying the best thing government can do is cut negative gearing and quit adding incentives for people to enter the market, let it correct. Yeah, but what politician's ever going to have the balls to do it? You know? What are they going to do it? More taxes mean better life for us all. Yeah, well, you know, we'll all be equally poor if they just take all our stuff away. Okay, everyone. We're now at 8 o'clock. Thank you all for joining me for a, you know, late last-minute stream of HeiseSays. I thought we'd just watch Albanese's speech to Parliament in response to the budget. And because I haven't watched it, and this is feeling like an election year, guys. It is going to be an election year. Let me know how the audio goes when I bring it all in. I've got my stein of beer at the moment. I'm on pale ale because I think I will need it. Let us know. Is he going to say build back better? What do you think? What will the catchphrase be for Albanese? I haven't seen anything. You know, we'll build back better. I mean, here it's on your side. Is that it? On your side? Is that a quote? Is that a catch line? Audio's good. More taxes. Everyone wants to pay more taxes. Are you kidding? Wow. I don't know, guys. I don't know. So let's just... Okay, here it is. And we'll just overlay this here. Nope. Hang on, I just need to check the audio mixer. The audio mixer, what's... Okay, wait. Good, now this should be playing and let me know how the audio is. Could you hear that, everyone? back. Build back. You know the thing. Come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah. Yep. Oh. Oops. There we go. Okay, let's skip ahead. Oh, we see all the politicians getting in there. Evening, Steve. Thanks for joining.
Honourable members, the Speaker.
So why are these two guys always wearing the masks there? You know, why are they always wearing the masks at the front? Oh, you can't see what I'm pointing to with my mouse, but still, you know, you can see them. And the politicians aren't. Is it just so they don't want to get infected, like accidentally drink a politician's cup?
I call the Leader of the Opposition.
My fellow Australians, I grew up in a council house in Camperdown, the only son of a single mum on the disability pension.
This isn't live, mate, or the stream is live, but it's a couple of days old. I just haven't watched it yet.
I stand before you tonight seeking the honour of serving as your Prime Minister.
There you go. It's an election. This is an election. They're all preparing. Every budget is an election budget, but this is more an election budget.
I'm here because of sacrifices my mum made to give me chances she was denied by disadvantage. I'll never forget that. I'm here tonight because good government changed my life. For me, and I know for so many people in similar circumstances, the policies and decisions of good government can make all the difference. A good government, building a strong economy and a fair society, opens the door to education, to employment, to decent housing, to proper health care and a better life.
You think he believes that? I guess he does. I honestly think most politicians are sincere and maybe just get burned out by the system. At least I hope.
I lived that as a young man, and I saw it firsthand as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, creating jobs, connecting up communities, boosting productivity in our cities and our regions. I understand the value and the power of good government, and I know our country needs and is.
Good government is a small government that just, you know, interferes minimally in your life. Maybe, I guess that's where I'm ideologically in a different position to Albanese. Maybe I didn't need to depend on the government as a child.
Deserves a good government again. A government that believes in your potential. A Prime Minister who shares your values.
Now, we all know of the sexist and racist policies that Labor puts forward to discriminate for positive purposes. So if you're not one of the ones that they believe in, you're not going to get any benefit, are you? They're not going to really believe in you.
A Labor government that's on your side. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, Australians know that the last year has been unlike any other in our lifetimes. And when we look at the devastation and heartbreak still unfolding in parts of the world, it's only natural to feel that things could have been a lot worse here. Yet when I look at our country today, I also know we can do so much better. So much better than real wages declining over the next 4 years, after flatlining over the last 8 years. So much better than 3 more years of scandal and a government treating taxpayers' funds as if they are Liberal Party funds. So much better than 3 more years of announcements that are never delivered. And so much better than merely coming back rather than building back stronger. This budget offers a low growth, low productivity and low wage future, and $1 trillion.
Is he talking about his own budget that he's proposing? That's what I instantly think. Kmar's telling us about an ad in Victoria that's promoting a new initiative by Victorian government to subsidise the wages of female workers. I'll have to look into that, mate. I mean, here you go. In Queensland, I remember a year ago I was talking about the Queensland police discriminating against men, and now it's all come out in the Courier Mail. There you go. So, I mean, that's the majority of the viewers of this channel, about 80% are men. So a lot of us are just instantly, you know, you're all cashing those men checks, aren't you? You know, those men checks that you get sent at the men's clubs, all where you get, you know, you sign your privilege form.
$1 of debt. Is that really the best we can aspire to? I want Australia to emerge from this crisis stronger, smarter and more self-reliant, with an economic recovery that works for all Australians. Throughout this pandemic, Australians have given up so much. Labor's plan is about rewarding and repaying the sacrifices that people have made. Tonight I will further outline Labor's alternative policy agenda, an agenda with 3 guiding principles that will drive Labor in government. 1, an economy that delivers for working families. 2, investing in Australia's future. And 3, no one held back and no one left behind. Yeah. These 3 principles will drive our plans and policies to secure a better future, improve living standards and promote fairness. We have a once-in-a-century opportunity to reinvent our economy, to lift wages and make sure they keep rising, to invest in advanced manufacturing and skills and training with public TAFE at its heart, to provide affordable childcare, to fix aged care, to address the housing crisis, to champion equality for women, and to emerge as a renewable energy superpower.
I mean, it's aspirational. How does anyone think we can emerge as a renewable energy superpower here in Australia? Just with all the onerous red tape, with the wages that we have here, with the fact that we can't even get cheap electricity to mass manufacture the components needed to offshore overseas. But, you know, there we go. We'll see. We'll see. You know?
That's the better future that I want to build for Australia as Prime Minister. But Tuesday's budget didn't speak for this country's future. It only told the sorry tale of 8 years of Liberal neglect. 8 years of wasting opportunities and running from responsibility. 8 years of flat wages but rising costs. 8 years of ignoring problems and cutting funding from the solutions. 8 years of cushy jobs for Liberal mates but insecure work for ordinary Australians.
Is he counting all the civil servants in there? I don't think the jobs were insecure for all the Queensland civil servants. They got extra $1,000 checked. Hey Simon, welcome on board. How you going? Addressing the housing crisis by stealing more. Yep. Rather than handouts to Liberal mates, become the future with renewables. What handouts? That's the problem. You hear all the hippies will you know, say, oh, these coal industry is getting all these subsidies, but it's they don't have to pay the same petrol taxes that we do because they don't drive on the roads. So there's a lot of propaganda out there, guys.
8 years.
Just look at Victoria. Look at the risk of blackouts that they had. You know, we're talking about that last year because of just the energy production capacity and the cost of power.
Of holding people back and leaving people behind. I measure the strength of our economy by how it works for people. So for me, there's a simple test by which we can judge the last 8 years. Do you feel better off than you...
Are you meaning the sports handouts? Yeah, mate. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about the push for renewables, mate. That's the issue. You're always going to get... Sadly, you're going to get the bloody... what is it? What is it? Pork barreling? We'll see that. You know, why do you think the NBN went out to the marginal seats before anything else?
Did 8 years ago. Do you feel more secure at work? When did you last get a wage rise? Are you finding it easier to pay your bills? Are you more certain of your future and, importantly, that of your children?
See, but the government isn't going to help with any of those things. They're just going to get in the way of those things. I get it's a different perspective. I'm a small business person. I haven't had a wage for over a decade. You know, my security is when I can generate work. If I don't have enough money, I have to go out there and earn it. Like, I guess it's a different worldview.
The past 8 years have been very good to the Prime Minister and his mates. But has it been good for you? Because after 8 years in power, this Prime Minister is getting ready to ask you for 3 more. When Robert Menzies founded the Liberal Party, he spoke about the forgotten people. This Liberal government just wants you to forget. Forget their failures, forget their broken promises, forget all their jobs for their mates. Make no mistake, the budget handed down on Tuesday night is not a plan for the next generation. It is a patch-up job for the next election. Remember that the centrepiece of last year's budget was...
Di, mate, you want to look at another YouTuber here in Queensland, Aussie Rants? He's just done a video about houses he's been looking at here in Queensland, and yeah, they've gone up a lot in the regions, mate. Look up his channel. He did a video on it today. Daily Rants, Australia. I think one went from 400, now they're asking 6, or something stupid like that. So Queensland ain't looking much better. Sorry.
JobMaker. That promised to create 450,000 new jobs. It fell short by 449,000.
See, I consider that a success, honestly. If you don't need the money, if people can't be bothered jumping through the hoops to get this this job maker money, isn't that a good thing? You want to avoid spending, but I know politicians that they have to take swings at each other, and I understand what he's doing here. He's got, you know, why haven't you created those jobs? You don't want a bunch of shit busy work jobs that are created. I mean, there's enough of them already in the civil servants.
That's right. Not 450,000, just 1,000. Missed by that much. Like
Good.
so
Get smart reference. Okay, you got that one. Good work, Albo.
much with this government, it was all smirk and mirrors. This week, the chasm between announcement and delivery didn't even make it to budget night. Having told Monday's papers that the budget would provide $10 billion of additional infrastructure investment, the actual budget papers show a $3.3 billion cut to infrastructure over the next 4 years. A government that is all announcement, no delivery. See, for this Prime Minister, the announcement is all about him, always. The press conference, the photo op. But when it comes to the part that affects you, the delivery, he's lost interest.
So long as they don't spend the money, I'd rather have the photo op and no spending. That could be the best of both worlds. You get all the bullshit political hoo-haing and photo ops, then they only spend a tiny amount of money. So, you know, our insane debt doesn't grow anymore. I know that's not going to happen, but, one could hope. One could hope.
Only interest at that point is blaming someone else. When the black summer of bushfires raged, he said, memorably, "I don't hold a hose, mate." Now, with our tourism and education industries still locked away from the world, and with more than 30,000 Australians stranded overseas, He says quarantine is a matter for the states and getting the vaccine isn't a race. He puts out a press release threatening to put returning a...
Do the politicians not realise that most people don't want the vaccine? I mean, you know, let's do a poll here. How many of you would take it? Or how many of you are planning to take the vaccine? Guys, no one I know is planning to take it. Everyone is, and most of them, you know, most of them already have other vaccines, but they're just going to wait for this. So, you know, is that going to win him any support? Maybe from his base? Maybe from the Greenies? You know? Trent is getting it? You're getting it? You're not waiting? Grisho is not getting it. I'm not getting it. KMR hates the needles. Where's the budget response, Albo? Oh, that calms down. It's all part of it. It's an act. Manya, it's an act. You know, you got to enjoy the show. Get a beer. G'day's in the control group. He's got the beers. You know? Manya, not for a while. See, there's a lot of hesitancy, I'd say. You know? A lot of hesitancy. I want the Pfizer. Can you get the Russian one? Well, then you'll vote hard left, won't you? You become a Greens member. Well, no, they're not communists anymore, are they? More authoritarian.
Australians in jail and then blames the media for reporting it. Locked out or locked up. A message no Australian government should send to our own citizens.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there from Albanese. You know, the government's making our citizenship essentially worthless.
The Prime Minister's constant buck-passing and blame-shifting has become a handbrake on our economic recovery. The strength of our economic recovery is dependent on effective quarantine and vaccinations. But with more than a year to prepare, this government has bungled both. We should have expanded existing quarantine facilities and built new ones across the country, which are fit for purpose and located near medical and other needed support. For example, Bladen Village outside of Darwin has the potential to house up to 1,000 people and is currently being used to quarantine US Defence Force personnel. Australian citizens, of course, were promised they would be home by Christmas last year. We were also told we're at the front of the queue for vaccines, when we in fact have one of the slowest rollouts in the advanced world. Now the Prime Minister and the Treasurer can't even agree on when Australians will be vaccinated. Australia should be making mRNA vaccines here. Our Labor government will prioritise support for this production through our National Reconstruction Fund. We believe Australia can be a world-leading pharmaceutical manufacturing hub, and never again should the health of Australians be put at risk by this government's refusal to invest in manufacturing. But it's not just in his response to vaccinations and quarantine that this Prime Minister has failed the test of leadership. A once-in-a-generation march by the women of Australia in pursuit of respect and justice. Ignored. Courageous survivors, shunned and then slandered. A once-in-a-lifetime statement from the heart from the first Australians. A clarion call.
Haven't we already had the sorry day? Haven't we already done all that stuff? Nothing changes. It's never enough. Always want more. And there's no discussion about the bilateral nature of intimate partner violence. Ever. Nothing at all for men. It's all just tokenistic rubbish. I'm getting sick of it. Honestly, I'm just getting sick of hearing it all from these people. Because you know they'll chuck anyone under the bus to get to step up. Come on.
For truth, treaty and voice. Delayed and then dismissed. A generous statement to advance reconciliation that a Labor government will embrace and we will advocate at a referendum. The government forced into a compensation payout in excess of $1 billion to the people it hounded through robo-debt. Yet now preparing for the...
Yeah, that was insane, that robo-debt. I mean, oh, God. You're just going to have to accept there are going to be some bludgers. They're just going to be some bludgers. That's the deadweight loss of keeping people from destitution. That's why you don't want to make, you know, it too generous. Lockpicking lawyer, what about violence about men? No, there's nothing there, mate. Nothing at all in the budget about it.
Same program of cuts and harassment for people on the NDIS. A new spirit of cooperation between unions and business, striving to improve conditions and productivity. And this government uses it to launch an assault on workers' pay, sick leave and job security.
Because we're not competitive on a global scale. It's not the boomer world anymore. It's a global world. You've got to compete. That's why everyone's shipping everything overseas.
New surge of momentum for global action on climate change. And Australia with nothing to offer.
Yeah, we're providing the call for the world that powers all of the propaganda bullshit about climate change. We are adding value.
The Prime Minister literally stuck on mute in front of the world, and a government frozen in time while the world warms around it. The Liberals offer up nothing but...
Oh, damn, mate. Thank you very much for the generous super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you. That's a lot of 7-Eleven coffees or beer for tonight.
The show bag
very
budget.
Generous.
Flashy enough to sell on Tuesday night, beginning to fall apart the very next day when the reality of falling real wages, vaccination confusion, infrastructure cuts and productivity inertia become apparent.
Vaccination confusion, infrastructure. I think the media has is really scaring a lot of people. You know, there's an article I read the other day where they were talking about, you know, some young guy convinced his mother to do it, to take it, and then she died. And he thought it could be from that. And even it's not, how guilty would that make you feel? Of course, she was in India, so there was a much higher risk of her catching the illness than here. But still, you know.
Nothing built to last. No real reform, just a series of announcements to overcome political problems which the government had created. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the economy should work for people, not the other way around. People have endured 8 long years of stagnation.
The economy should work for people and not the other way around. The economy should work for people and not the other way around. Shouldn't you work for things yourself? Is that disappearing?
Wages, growing job insecurity and pressure on family costs like childcare, rent, petrol and groceries.
Well, reduce the tax on petrol. Talk to your state leaders, that'd be nice. And then that will also reduce the cost of groceries too, because of all the transportation costs. That'd be great too.
We know Australians who are counted as employed can't get enough hours to pay the bills or can't count on regular hours. We know too many Australians are being exploited or underpaid or subjected to an unsafe environment, hostage to their insecure work. And we know this government...
He makes Australians sound so bloody pathetic, doesn't he? It's kind of sickening, really. You know? Oh, thank you for signing up as a member, Autistic Simon. Appreciate it. Did you sign up before, mate? Is this a new account? Is this a new account? Let me know. But no, thank you. But he makes Australians sound so pathetic. Like I was telling you all about my sister-in-law, who was at the airport. So now she's back at the airport working, and because of the whole corona thing, she went and got another job. So now she's working 2 jobs. You know? So she's doing better than ever, and she's working a lot of hours. And, you know, she's got agency. It's all right, Heise. ALP will fix everything. Yeah, well, I don't know. Ever since good old Hawke said no Australian child would live in poverty, you know, let me down from that.
Will seek to undermine trade unions at every opportunity. At the first flicker of economic recovery, this government tried to cut wages and conditions. Instead of standing up for people being paid as little as $2 an hour, they say that enforcing...
Oh, see, that's bullshit right there. As little as $2 an hour. No, that's fake news propaganda that we've heard all the time. It is when people go to fruit picking and they get a pick rate and they equate that to an hour. Okay, if you're shit, you're gonna get crap pick rates. I had a mate who did it. He did really good pick rates, and guess what? Now he's running a business and he's actually struggling to find workers because he can't get people with the right skills. You know, he's trying to find designers for his signage business. He's got a year's worth of work lined up in front of him. See, and the problem is people will believe it. They'll see this and they'll believe that there's some people out there working for $2 an hour. Well, it's probably because they're not even worth it.
The minimum wage is complicated. Labor's plan for secure jobs includes writing job security into the Fair Work Act, properly defining casual work, cracking down on the abuse of cowboy labour hire firms to ensure that people who do the same job get the same pay.
Uber may nearly get you $2 an hour. Well, maybe he's talking about YouTubing. I think sometimes I did Uber. I mean, it's different. It's contracting. You can make $300 an hour too sometimes. It's up to the individual.
Public reporting on the gender pay gap for large companies and
gender earnings gap, Albo. Earnings gap. This is the problem. They believe this stuff.
10 days paid domestic and family violence leave.
Yeah, you're right. Wet Palette Warrior. Where's your comment here? They don't care. It's just vote and popularity. Yep. Yeah. This is the question. Well, the issue with universal suffrage, because you can easily manipulate the masses, and most people won't dig any further because they're just too busy and they're too exhausted. You know.
And we will make wage theft a crime.
It already is a crime. It already is a crime. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Autistic Simon. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. I thought so. I wasn't sure. Wait, did he say taxes will be a crime? I wish.
Done. It could have been done.
Well, technically it is. You're right. It is wage theft. They are stealing part of your wage. Oh, boy. Remember the first time you get a job and you got paid and you had wage theft taken out of it? I remember the first time I was forced to join a union. I remember at university they forced you to join the student union, and if you didn't, they would hold your grades away from you. So you could pay for some fat, you know, obviously fat left-wing radical to go to some protest to protest a policy somewhere on a bus trip. Such a scam. Forced it out of your money. As a student, you were struggling to get by, and they're still demanding and holding your grades as ransom after you paid thousands of dollars to go to the course.
But the Morrison government actually voted to remove it from their own legislation. An 8-year-old government behaved like an 8-year-old child and threw a tantrum. And why were they cranky? Because Labor and the crossbench refused to support the parts of the legislation that would cut pay. Our approach stands in stark contrast to those opposite, who cut penalty rates and who boasted that low wages was a deliberate design feature of our economic architecture.
You ever talk to anyone who runs a restaurant? How much it costs to pay someone to serve coffee on the weekend? You know, it's why restaurants are shut often. Bob Hawke should have said, what's this, Autistic Simon? Bob Hawke should have said no child with decent, moral, ethical, non-drug addicted parents. Well, isn't that common sense? Here's the thing. Here's an argument I'll put to you. I would suggest that the taxation they put on alcohol is exacerbating the drug problem. It's cheaper to go get some, a drug or a substance than it is to get alcohol. So what are people going to do?
I know there is a better way. Boosting wages and lifting productivity is essential for economic growth. If you increase wages, workers will have more to spend in their local small businesses. If elected Prime Minister, I will always stand up for secure jobs and fair wages.
You know, a great way to increase wages is to reduce the taxation that you take away from people, and then that will increase spending in local communities. You know? That's a great idea. And he can do that himself. He doesn't even need to depend on other businesses. Then you don't need to worry about wage theft. Fantastic. Maybe fire that entire department on the gender wage study division that does these reports, collecting information from big businesses. Then those businesses can save money on that as well. They don't have to do all that bloody accounting. And then they can pay us all higher dividends. Win-win. We're all happy. The workers are happy because they're paying less tax, and the big companies are happy because they're doing less bullshit paperwork. There may be a few feminist graduates who don't have jobs, ticking forms and stuff, but I'm sure they can, do something else.
Mr. Speaker, last year I outlined Labor's cheaper childcare plan, abolishing the cap and increasing the subsidy to lower childcare costs for virtually every family.
This is insane. This is really insane what they're proposing. They should link it to the family tax benefit so it disappears when you're, earning a reasonable amount. But he wants everyone to get it. And what do you think is going to happen? There's going to be no people taking care of their kids. It's all going to be going to raised by the government. And no wonder housing costs so much, because now both people working, it's not something special. Everyone has to do it just to get in. And some people are saying this is the mortgage keeper that I was joking about. It's making sure both parents can work so they can both channel all that money to buy that house, to keep that mortgage. I wonder what would happen to house prices if you suddenly got rid of all childcare subsidies. That's going to be impossible. You'll never be able to get those policies through again anymore. Now, we're going to have a female majority.
The government dismissed our policy. They declared they had already fixed affordability, and they ridiculed the economic gain from investing in childcare. Now the government have rushed out a half-baked policy announcement that they say will lower the structural disincentive to work that they told us just 6 months ago didn't exist. What this Treasurer hasn't worked out is if you perform half a backflip, you fall flat on your face. That's why the Liberals' new policy will only help 1 in 4 of the families who will benefit from our plan, and the budget papers actually show that under their plan the workforce participation rate will fall. Labor's policy will not only deliver support to 4 times the number of families, it will boost the economy substantially.
CJ, housing prices will fall if they just drop foreign investment. I don't think so. It's not. I think there's certain areas that it'll highlight and it'll exacerbate. But foreign investment, it's gone off a cliff a few years ago already. It's a bit more complicated than that. Apartments definitely, but who wants to live in an apartment now? Hang on. Wait. Nope. This one.
And move towards the universal provision of affordable childcare for every family. Yeah. This is economic reform. It's good for working families, it's good for our economy, but it's also good for our children.
Notice how he's just slipping it in there. It's all about working families, working families, working families. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but what about, wouldn't the ideal be working fathers, and then you can have a mother raising the kids, or working mothers and you can have the dad at home raising the kids? You know, one person actually building a household, working together as a team, or is that just so old-fashioned? Maybe it is. It's not even an option anymore. You know, I know women that don't need to work at all. Their husbands earn significantly more than the average wage, but they still want to, they still choose to, but...
The government will invest in Australian industry and our work.
No, we need both to work to pay us more taxes. Yeah, well, yeah, that's... I've run out of beer, but that's the cynical approach too. I think you're right there.
Force, setting them up for success today and into the future. We'll create Jobs and Skills Australia on the Infrastructure Australia model to advise on the future work opportunities and to ensure that Australians can benefit from them. And we will establish a National Reconstruction Fund to transform existing industries and the industries of tomorrow. We'll partner with the private sector, including the superannuation industry, to revive our ability to make products and be more self-reliant. Australia has always produced scientific innovations, but we haven't always been good at commercialising them. Why?
I wonder why. I wonder why. What could it be? What overarching thing could stop our ability to innovate and commercialise? I wonder.
The black box Google Maps, the cochlear implant, or solar technology. Not long ago, solar power was seen as a useful novelty, good enough to run a pocket calculator, but too expensive, too inefficient, too unreliable to power a home or a workplace. Australians changed that. Australian researchers and engineers, Australian scientists and universities, Australian breakthroughs in solar power reshaped the global energy grid. Overwhelmingly, this did lead to manufacturing and job creation.
Yeah, in China. And how much... You couldn't really say to reshape the global energy grid. It's barely made a dent on it. But anyway, keep going.
But it was overseas, not here. And if we don't get smart, if we don't get serious, if we don't get moving, the same thing will happen again.
Why would anyone want to set up a business here in Australia when the government's just going to keep taking slices off you? When the cost of power is so expensive, when the cost of getting into property is so expensive, when you're dealing with staff and they're a pain in the arse, when you've got the unions striking and causing you problems.
We mine and produce every element needed to build a lithium battery, the power storage technology of the future. I don't want us to miss out on jobs and investment by sending those materials overseas for another country to manufacture and then importing them back once value has been added. I want Australia making our own future. Yeah. To do that, we can't be afraid of the future, we have to shape it. The problem with this government isn't so much that they are stuck in the past, it's that they want the rest of Australia to go back there just to keep them company. The Liberals abandoned.
Trent, he's kind of sounding better than what the Libs had to offer, but that's not a high bar. Well, yeah, mate, we got the two here we're competing against. But here's the thing, I'm just so sceptical of all these calls for manufacturing here in Australia. I'm just thinking of the Not In My Backyard, the NIMBY crowd. You know, you try and get a coal mine up here in Queensland, you've got bloody Greens coming from Tasmania here to protest the damn thing. You know, we'll see. We'll see.
A fibre-based national broadband network, claiming it would cost $29.5 billion. Then it became $41 billion, then $49, then 51, then 57 billion. Now, of course, they are having to retrofit back to fibre. Their love for copper has cost taxpayers a lot of brass. Their insistence on looking backward on energy, communications, transport and so much more.
But aren't Labor pushing for renewables, like using ancient technologies like windmills? Is there no mainstream parties even talking about nuclear in Australia, are they? None of the big two. Really, it's not even... Oh, we need solar, not coal. No, CJ, we need nuclear. We don't need solar. Solar's not dependable. You know. Do you want to have a look at... let's look at right now. Hang on. We'll bring up the energy usage, energy market. Let's see how our energy production's going right now. Let's see here. What are we doing? So the wind farms are doing well in Victoria. That's nice at night time. They're doing good. They haven't had to kick in these generators here, but all the solar's producing nothing because, of course, it's 8 p.m. at night. You know, I'd rather nuclear. You know, I'd rather we at least look at it. That was the whole point of letting the Pommies bomb the middle of Australia, you know, was to let us get nuclear capacity.
Quality downward, but our costs upward. Ever since the Liberals drove Holden out of the country, they've run up the white flag on manufacturing and skills and apprentices. I'm not going to see us surrender any more jobs and industries and the communities that depend on them. My Labor government will establish the Startup Year program to help drive innovation and increase links between universities and entrepreneurs. Startup loans will be offered to students and new graduates with ventures attached to a tertiary institution or designated private accelerator. This will assist in the identification of opportunities for commercialisation of university research. The government has proven incapable of developing an energy policy or dealing with climate change. Positive action on climate change and moving to net zero emissions by 2050.
The problem with batteries, mate, is they've got a lifespan. They're not getting any more advanced. Nothing he's doing is any special. He's just made, you know, he's made them bigger. And then you've got all the embodied energy in that as well that you need to dispose of. If you just look at the area, the actual physical area of disposing of the batteries compared to storing nuclear waste for you know, just energy capacity due to physical storage area, it just doesn't add up. You know, we're not talking, you know, 60s crap. You're talking 4th gen. I mean, someone made a comment that North Korea is ahead of us, and, well, they are in nuclear, that's for sure. Batteries are, you know, small use, but not big use. Bill Gates is making it safer. Others are.
Jobs, lower energy prices and lower emissions. And Labor has a plan to help families and communities play their part in achieving this critical target. A plan that will make electric cars more affordable and support the rollout of community batteries. A Labor government will create a new energy apprenticeships program to train 10,000 young people for the energy jobs of the future. This will support them with up to $10,000 over the course of their apprenticeship. These 10,000 new apprenticeships will be available in renewable energy generation, storage and distribution, including in emerging technologies such as green hydrogen, energy efficiency upgrades, renewables manufacturing like batteries, and relevant agricultural activities. The rest of the world has figured this out. Cutting pollution means creating jobs.
Yeah. Do we even have a pollution problem in Australia anymore? Seriously? Come on. Wow. Yeah. How we cut pollution was we sent all our recycling over to Malaysia and they burned it. Enjoy the green car tax under Labor. Yeah, this is what scares me about this. It's all this environmentalist rhetoric that's coming out here.
Mr. Speaker, every one of us hopes to grow old.
Oh, thanks for the super chat, Advanced Data. I appreciate it. 7 7-Eleven copies, one for each day of the week, thank you very much. Or probably one trip with the kids these days.
More and more of us will live long enough to need extra care in our later years. But right now that thought fills a lot of Australians with dread. Our aged pensioners and retirees should have confidence that support will be there for them. None of us can say we weren't told how to fix the system, with the Royal Commission delivering a comprehensive set of recommendations for change. The Prime Minister must now explain why he has rejected so many of those important recommendations, like the recommendation to require a nurse on duty in nursing homes at all times. Seems to make sense. Or support for increasing the appallingly low wages of hard-working aged care staff. Or why he's opted for fewer.
The problem with that is you increase the wages there, that you're going to reduce the amount of staff that are in there. You're going to, all of this is going to increase the cost for people going into that, and it's already bloody expensive. Because it's a, it's a high care environment, not as high as hospitals.
Hours of care than the Royal Commission recommended, and delivered them much later. Or why the government is congratulating itself for funding new home care places when it isn't even enough to clear the current waiting list. A Labor government will not allow older Australians to grow old alone, deprived of proper care and dignity. We will not forget the dedicated, mostly female staff who care for our elderly, almost uniformly understaffed and underpaid. The Morrison government has not even managed to roll out the vaccine to these workers. Older Australians were there for us. They have paid their taxes, held communities together, raised their families, served their country in war and in peace. Older Australians deserve to be respected, to feel safe, to be comforted and treated with the utmost dignity. This cannot be beyond us. We can achieve this, we must achieve this. A Labor government will deliver this, and a Labor government will deliver that care by ensuring that every dollar spent in aged care goes to employing a guaranteed minimum level of nurses, assistants and carers, and to daily needs like decent food, rather than into the pockets of the more unscrupulous providers. Yeah. We also support the Fair Work Commission.
I'd love to see, forget all this bullshit with aged care, I'd love them just to push out a low-carb, high-fat diet as a way to treat dementia. That'd be nice, if they look at that.
Moving quickly to meaningfully lift the wages of aged care workers. Yeah. And we will ensure that dementia care management is core business, given that up to 2 in every 3 aged care residents is affected.
That's that diet. That's the Western diet. You'll see in 50 years, guys, they'll discover that it'll be declared type 3 diabetes. And that'll be what it is, and the diets will all change, and they'll look back and think at all the crap we were feeding people. That's the problem.
Mr. Speaker, the security of a roof over one's head should be available to all Australians. Young people despair about whether they will ever afford a first home. Families struggle to meet rent payments, and older women are the fastest growing group subject to homelessness. I'm proud to say that Labor in government will create a $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund with the annual investment return to build social and affordable housing and create thousands of jobs.
This is the issue with social housing, guys. I think I'm the only architect that's advocating against it, is that you don't want to have people in social housing. You want people owning their own houses. That's not a solution for this.
Over the first 5 years, this will build around 20,000 social housing properties, places like the home I grew up in. Our home gave us so much more than somewhere to sleep. It gave my mum and I pride and dignity and security, and it gave me a future that led me here tonight. Our housing plan is good for jobs too. This initiative will create over 21,500 jobs each year, and 1 in 10 construction jobs created will be for apprentices. Last year, 10,000 mums and their children fleeing family violence were turned away from refuges because there wasn't a bed.
Oh, thanks for that. Autistic Summit for a 7-Eleven chocolate cake slice. Yeah, I have fallen victim to those, mate. I have definitely fallen victim to those. I usually go the mud cake. I mean, the problem I have is with Rachel pregnant, chocolate comes into the house, and I am just as weak as that, and then I fall off the wagon. So it kind of throws the keto diet out, unfortunately. But yeah, okay, I'll have to try it.
Tonight, women's crisis services across Australia will have to tell women fleeing violence they literally have nowhere to house them.
What about men and dads? You know, that group that there's not one place in the country where they can go with their kids? What about that? No, never any mention of that. No one wants to talk. I guess it's emasculine to talk about that, to even address it. No one wants to be associated with it. You know.
They will sleep in their car or go back to dangerous situations.
Trent's happy as they don't raise taxes. Mate, come on. They're going to raise taxes. That'll happen. That'll happen.
Imagine the impact that has on children, on how they feel at school the next day. Imagine the emotional toll on a mother, desperate as mums do to keep their children safe, but unable to offer them more. We know this happens tonight because it happens each and every day. We can and we must do better. That's why 4,000 of the 20,000 social housing properties that we create from this funding will be allocated to women and children experiencing domestic and family violence and older women on low incomes.
And men and dad will get... Oh, we know they'll get nothing, guys. It's not a vote winner. Come on. What was that documentary on Apple TV, you know, where the feminists went to all the men's rights things and their protests were just so pathetic it was sad, you know?
We will also provide $100 million for crisis and transitional housing for these women at risk. We will build 10,000 affordable housing properties for frontline workers, the heroes of the pandemic, those nurses, police, emergency service workers and cleaners that are keeping us safe.
Government housing for frontline workers. Shit. Comrade.
Some of the worst housing standards in the world are endured by our First Nations people. As part of our commitment to closing the gap,
closing the gap. They've been talking about this since I was at university. It's just such bullshit, everyone. We were working on projects. I designed a project with a team, with Indigenous architect. They went out and went to all these remote communities. And we're talking about all these design theories, you know, cultural avoidance and that. And the locals they didn't give a shit about that, saying we've got other cultural issues, we've got other problems. Closing the gap. They'll be talking about that in another 50 years because the government will just throw money and more money at social programs and rubbish. They need to create jobs. They need to give men in these communities value and dignity.
The fund will provide $200 million for the repair, maintenance and improvements of housing in remote Indigenous communities.
The housing needs to be appropriate. You'll get people building houses in these remote communities and they'll put a standard domestic water system in there that will just deteriorate and fall apart because the water has a salt content or is a heavy water that it's not used to, and then they'll try and fix it and it'll get ruined. And you'll have maintenance and I should do a video on it again. I think I have done one before, just the state of the housing. Yeah, it's... Can they even own their own houses there, or they all living on government housing? Because that'd be worse than anything. Well, what hope do you have there? You know?
And 2 weeks after our country stood together on Anzac Day to declare lest we forget, 1 in 10 of the people who will sleep rough on the streets in Sydney tonight is a veteran. 1 in 10. Australia must do more to care.
So it's all government housing there? You know what? I would be really happy if, you know, rather than anything, you just give every Aboriginal the deed to the house. Give it to them up in these towns. Open up the communities. You know, maybe create tax-free regions so people can start businesses there. Why do we have call centres overseas? Why not up north with the NBN? You know, chuck a cable to Weeper. You could train someone to answer a phone, couldn't you?
For the brave men and women who have worn our uniform. This fund will provide $30 million over the first 5 years to build more supportive housing and fund specialist services for veterans who are either living or at risk of homelessness. Mr. Speaker, this is a future fund that will give more Australians a future. Hear, hear. More than a year ago, the government received the Respect at Work report. Every woman should feel safe in every workplace, including this one. The report...
Is this all about women today, guys? Is it? I mean, is it all the women budget? You know, I'm glad I'm married, guys. You know, glad I'm married to a woman, so I can at least get some of the grift through her. Not that we'll probably get anyone. No, she's a stay-at-home mother of 6. The feminists would probably hate Rachel.
Recognised employers' responsibility to eliminate sex discrimination, sexual harassment and victimisation from their businesses. Labor and government will work with experts, employers and unions to make sure this responsibility is clear in our law, as was recommended by the report.
You know what that'll do? You know what that'll do, guys? That's going to disincentivise people from hiring women. You know? It's going to disincentivise people from hiring women. Because there's an additional risk then on doing it. More responsibility on the employer. Dia's asking how many women in the chat. Well, we're about 80% men here on the channel. There are a few that occasionally appear. You know? There are a few regulars.
Mr. Speaker, the budget spending was very much focused on political management of problems the government itself has created over the last 8 years. Aged care cuts, childcare fee increases, ignoring of women's safety and economic security issues.
What? Okay.
These last 8 long years, the government has focused on itself, too often treating taxpayers' money as if it were the Liberal and National Party's money. Sports rorts, community safety rorts.
Yeah, that's bullshit, the sports rorts. I'm just sick of all government bloody handouts.
Abuse of infrastructure and regional funding has grown with each year. Even bushfire disaster funding was allocated with political bias. And then $1 billion spent on government advertising promoting themselves. In Tuesday's budget...
Well, we know they all do that. This is why we need a smaller government, everyone. We need to make them smaller.
They announced or topped up no less than 21 separate slush funds worth $4 billion of taxpayers' money to splash around in the lead up to the next election. In addition, there's an extraordinary...
Hang on, what's the comment there? Viren is asking, Heise, is it even worth working in this society as a man? You have no financial freedom and pay for privileges for women. Yes, it is. Or you need to have value, you know. If you have a purpose. I mean, it's different when you're married and you're a family and you have children. That's you know, that gives you a purpose, a reason for your working. You know, but a single bloke, I can see how it can be quite frustrating.
$9 billion, where the only information is decisions taken but not announced. This is just red-hot abuse. They can't change. They won't change. They don't want to change. It's this simple. If you want to clean up politics, you need a National Integrity Commission. And if you want one that's fair income, it'll take a Labor government. My fellow Australians.
Might as well call these budgets a bachelor tax. Well, don't worry. Just buy 5 houses in negative gear. That's what everyone does. Guys, that's what you do in Australia, isn't it? Don't worry. Fuck the housing, the housing bubble. Just write off your tax. Wonder why. Wonder why so many people are doing it, eh?
None of us will forget this crisis that we have lived through. All of us are grateful that because of the sacrifices and unselfishness of so many, we have avoided the scale of death and trauma that we see in many other countries. To the Australian people, I say, you have been magnificent. You have been brave. You have been resolute. Now you deserve a government that is worthy of your efforts. Because it would be a disaster if we emerge from this crisis.
That's really quite scary to me, that we'll get a government that's worthy of our efforts. And most Australians won't really put much effort into picking which government they want.
Having learned nothing and not changed at all. What a missed opportunity if our economy comes out the other side.
But you know, guys, the problem here isn't Labor or Liberal. It's all the bureaucrats in the background. It's all the civil servants that are all just up in the machinations there, that are making all the decisions, that are influencing everything, that are advising to the politicians, that say that can't be done. That's the real issue. Because you can flip the leaders, but what's going to happen to all the people in these organisations?
With nothing to show for this transformational moment, but the biggest debt and deficit of all time. If you see this pandemic as a chance to build back stronger...
Oh, he didn't say it. He didn't say build back better. Come on. Come on, Anthony. You can do it, mate. You can do it.
Labor is on your side. If you believe economic policy should deliver higher wages, Labor is on your side. If you want more security at work, Labor is on your side. If you support equality for women, Labor is on your side. If you support cheaper childcare, Labor is on your side. If you believe that older Australians deserve dignity and care in their later years, Labor is on your side. If you believe a roof over your head is up to more than market forces, Labor is on your side. And if you get that action on climate change is an opportunity for us to emerge as a renewable energy superpower and create jobs.
You will own nothing. You will own nothing and be happy when Labor is on your side. I'm going to put that on a coffee mug.
Labor is on your side. Mr. Speaker, if you share our ambition for advanced manufacturing, high-value industries, a world-class services sector in a prosperous, outward-looking, ambitious Australia, Labor is on your side. And if you think sharing our continent with the oldest continuous civilisation on earth is a source of national pride and First Nations people should be recognised in our Constitution with a voice to Parliament.
See, this is the bullshit. Okay? Every Australian has a voice to Parliament, including the Aboriginal Australians have a voice to Parliament. It's our bloody politicians. It's our senators. It is the people in the House of Representatives that are meant to represent their constituents. We don't need another bloody voice. Another level of government. That's not what we need.
Labor is on your side.
Why don't they have an even gender split here? You know, aren't Labor, you know, all about equality? What's going on? Comrades, what's going on? Watch your blood pressure, Heise. Don't worry, mate, because of the carnivore diet, it's all good. You can yell and scream, you know. But then again, I have been having beer and chocolate today.
Mr. Speaker, I've never forgotten where I came from. I've never lost sight of the power of government to help people realise their potential.
He really thinks government can help people, everyone. That's the core of his identity. It's probably because he's fatherless. And the government was his father. And now he wants to do that for other people. Or is that too harsh?
I've never lost faith in our country's ability to compete and win in the world. I truly believe this is a moment for Australia to make our own. What we need now is a government with the plans to seize this chance. A government driven by optimism about the future. A government powered by determination to create opportunity. A government that holds no one back, that leaves no one behind. A Labor government that is on your side.
The coalition, they're already walking out and they're all cheering. They're all cheering. Oh, I wish I had more than one beer for this. Shouldn't have whoever is best gets the job. Not in the new world. Thanks, Advanced Dad. I went to the barber, got him to clean it up for me so I don't look like a nutcase.
The debate is adjourned. The House stands adjourned until Monday, 24 May 2021 at 10 a.m. in accordance with the resolution agreed to earlier.
Quick, hit him on the head. Hit him on the head. Quick, quick. Come on. Knock him out. Oh. Should have done it. So, there we go, guys. There we go. That's their slogan. On your side. What do you reckon? Who do you... We've seen the speech from ScoMo. We've seen the speech from Albanese. Who do you think's going to win the next election based on just that? What do you reckon? I'll do a poll here. We'll do a poll. Who will win? Next election. We'll do LMP and ALP. Over those choices, guys, who do you think will win now that we've seen those two speeches? Do you think it'll be Labor? Or Herbert's going China? Well, you know, no one wins, we all lose. You know. Everyone's saying China, the CCP. Does that means Labor, doesn't it? That means Labor. Lose, mate. Liberal. The thing is, which side do you want? You know, the rampant government debt with your social justice or without? I think it's equal. What happened? Did that poll come up? Neither. I'm hoping Labor are forever scarred with the scrapping of negative gearing and the franking credits nonsense. Yeah, well, I don't think they handled that too well. Labor easy win. You think, Trent? Trent thinks Labor's going to win. I did a poll here in the chat. It's meant to appear. Looks like it's not working, everyone. I don't want either. Well, yeah. I mean, who would you want? Which of the miners do you want in? Yeah, sorry guys. It looks like the poll isn't working. I don't think I can get it working. They'll vote for their own personal interests. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. People will, you know. I've spoken to highly educated friends and they're just voting for the party that will, you know, give them the most gimmies, the most handouts. Pauline. Oh, she's a senator. I don't think she'll... The best chance they had at the House of Reps was Stewart, and I don't know how that's gone. That hasn't gone down very well. You know. Labor should have kept their stance on negative gearing, but you can absolutely tell why they dropped it. Yeah. Yeah, it won't win the votes. They needed to do it a long time, phase it out. You know? Oh no, they were there. They were there. Autistic. They left. We'll go back. Here. I'll show you.
Much better.
There you go. See, they were there. They just all left early. They walked out. Obviously, they didn't want to. They didn't want to see him. They didn't want to see the speech.
Rather than building back stronger.
So
this budget,
we'll have to see how it goes, guys. Yeah, I mean, did anyone fall asleep? I mean, they're we'll have to see how they're going to pay for it, but it's not like it matters anymore. There's no difference. Liberal have just dug a huge trench now, so they really can't criticize Labor for their crazy spending. You know? It's just nuts. Two wings of the party in the same bird. I'm hoping... it would be good if we had a few miners in the actual House of Reps, not just the Greens. You know, it'd be good if you had even a bunch of One Nation people in the House of Representatives to mix it up a bit. You want a bit of variety in the House of Reps so they actually have to talk. Remember the cash ban? There was no one in there. It was completely empty. You want them to have to come to a consensus between them. What's the point in stopping negative gearing if you don't stop foreign investment in housing? Because negative gearing is having a much greater impact than foreign investment. Foreign investment has had a big impact, but not as much as negative gearing. That's the thing. Left agenda across both parties. Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it? It feels like it. There isn't really well, you've got the Liberal Democrats, but I don't. I mean, they're in a complete disarray now that they've lost their only senator. You've got One Nation. They're more centre. I'd even call them centre left on some of their policies. So we've got a lot of interventionist policies with regards to politics here in Australia. You know, print. Yeah. So how long have we been going here, guys? Oh, hour and a half. I just wanted to do a quick little one. Conservative Party doesn't exist. The city politicians rule the country. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yep. How do we know that? Because you can see here foreign investment has cooled down. This is building approvals. And you can see that peak there in 14, 15, 16, 17. See how we got nearly up to 100% of building approvals were for foreign investors made. And that's just tanked. That's just dropped down. That huge spike, that's why we have all that shithouse apartments that are all having all these construction disasters everywhere, because the market overheated. I remember back then I was talking to developers who wanted who wanted us to... the entire projects were completely dependent on foreign investment, guys. All coming from China. So it has cooled down a lot. It's not as big an issue as is played up. It's a complex issue with regards to property, but yeah, you know, if what we should do, allow foreign investment, but it has to be purchased with real assets like gold. So you start having gold flood into the country. Heise Labour are closet communists. Well, I'd say they're completely dependent on the green preferences now. You know, they can't get in without them. So knowing it's bad either way, how do we prepare for what's coming? I would love to see a greater emphasis on people using their preferences and trying to get some minors in to mix it up a bit in the House of Reps. Explain to people how to use their preferences. So, and you know, hashtag shift the window. That was what I was tweeting at the last election. Maybe that's the focus I should push again for this one. Like, shift the Overton window. Shift the dialogue. So, because there's no one party that's going to be your savior. You know, you have someone who's, oh, you got to vote for Pauline, you got to vote for the Liberals, you got to vote for Labor, I love the Greens. They're always going to disappoint you. They're people. They're going to disappoint you. Some of the policies are going to disappoint you. They're going to compromise on things that you would not be happy with. So they need to, you need to really mix it up in Parliament, and people need to not be afraid to put a mix of minors up there and change for each election if they have to. Don't be loyal to anyone, you know. CJ's going, I don't think that tells the real picture. I did a video on foreign investment in Australia, and most of it for housing is coming from China, mate. If you have a look at that one, you can see, you know. Not every year, no. Foreign students allowed to buy property, no, not 800,000 every year. I'd have to have a look. You know, then there wouldn't be, I mean, if they're buying existing properties, is that going to overheat it as much? That's, have a look at the Foreign Investment Review Board numbers. That would be picking up those numbers. The 800,000 students aren't buying that properties every year. A lot of them don't, mate. So what are we looking at here? Anything else? Condolences? What's happened? Has someone died? I hope not. I'm sorry to hear that. Thanks for all you do, Heise. Sorry that we live in such a stupid society. Hey, mate, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. We can still have these conversations. You know, we've got access to all of this media. You can get people come together and talk remotely all over the world. You know. Could be a lot worse. Sometimes I feel like we are heading down the path of Wehrmacht Germany with and you see all these crazy leftists who want to censor people, who want to burn books. You know. So it could be better. Could be. Well, guys, I'm getting pretty tired. I've got this week, I have a camp. We've got a school camp on this weekend, and we've got nap plans. So I may not be able to get 3 videos every day out this week because you know it's a distance ed school. I go with the kids. Frederick and Mina and I were going camping, and it's going to be great. Oh, this is my last beer from the weekend. How did Aussies become so greedy? Aussies used to believe in everyone having a fair go. Many seem shamelessly gloat about their inflated house prices like there's something special. Well, we've lost our work, you know. Everyone just wants the easy road, don't they? Re-education camp. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, it's a pretty conservative Christian school, so in some ways, yeah, it would be a re-education camp. We're going to go canoeing, and I'll probably fight with the principal because he's a vegan and I'm a carnivore, so it'll all be good fun. So yeah, it'll be great. Not boycotting that plan is what the Queensland teachers want. I don't know. I'm going to it because it'll give our kids experience taking tests, which is something you have to have. Honestly, I couldn't give a shit about the results. It's completely meaningless. And the school that we're in, they got a lot of special needs kids, so it's going to get a low result. I don't care. That's not why I'm doing it. You got to think of what you can take away from it. Because at distance ed, our kids never have tests, and you're going to have to do them one day in your life. So yeah, guys, thank you all very much for joining me for this episode. I just thought I'd because I haven't watched this speech. I thought I'd, put it up here, and we can all, maybe make it a bit easier for me to enjoy it. And take care. Have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow. Good night, everyone, and enjoy the last moments of your weekend. I'm so tempted to go to the bottle shop and buy another beer. I really am. 9:30. Are they still open? Yeah, I think they are. Well, we'll see. Take care, guys. I'll see you later.